English, and of course there's a great irony to this phrase, English has become the lingua franca of the lingua franca of the world. So that wherever you go, you can use English. The apostles did not go throughout the world and use everybody's local tribal language. They spoke Greek everywhere. And in our day, unlike any other time since then, today, the world speaks one language. There was Greek, and now there's English. There's never been a time when as much of the world has spoken one language as there is today. So for long-term missions, even using English as a bridge so that missionaries can go to one culture or another, there's tremendous opportunity for long-term missions. Serving with them then, and using English, short-term missions can come alongside.
I'm definitely able to serve God better because every experience that He's given me on one of these trips has given me more knowledge about His church and how to minister and reach out to people in the community and different people with different backgrounds, and how to start up a conversation and end it in the gospel and share God's word with different people. And I'm able to do that in everyday situations. At the airport, that often happens. It's easy to start up a conversation there. But you can also just bring up stuff with, a roommate or a friend.
Young people, short-term missions has a tremendous it's an untapped resource, especially when you have a view like we have in RP Missions that says, how can the church utilize the resources of the saints that have been given, both young and old, and all in between, and put that through the church, to the church, whether it's working in the British Isles, or whether it's working across the continent in America, or whether it's working in other situations such as Cyprus or Africa, or wherever it may be.
And then when we go door to door, we noticed that when we first, let's say 10 years ago, when we did more outreach in the neighborhood, we'd go door to door, and people either wouldn't know who our congregation was, wouldn't know anything about it, or they would, a couple of them thought that we were the congregation that had been in that building before, 20 years before. They didn't know any difference. And now, this year when we've gone out, they say, oh yeah, you're that church on the corner there, and we've seen you out in the neighborhood, we've seen you working on buildings, and we know exactly who you are. So it's been in large measure through what mission teams have done in concert with the congregation that made that change in our neighborhood.
We proclaim the gospel, and that impact, God's word never comes back void. So His word went forth through the weeks that we were there, and many, many people heard hopefully a clear presentation of the gospel. And so I pray that just even that clear proclamation would leave a lasting impression. Seeing God's name proclaimed to other nations and people it's the greatest treasure we can have. It's worth every minute of lost sleep and frustration and everything. So it's definitely worth it, more than worth it.
In going on an RP Missions trip, there certainly were opportunities for evangelism. There were times when we went out and we were the front lines of the church. We weren't able to converse in the language the way the natives were or the long-term missionaries, but there were things we could do, handing out material and helping out with the evangelistic mothers and toddlers clubs, for example. But I appreciated the fact that we were also involved in the everyday life of the church. And so it helped us to see that missions is, it puts that emphasis in the Great Commission not only on baptizing, but also making disciples and teaching all that I have commanded you. And so when you're a part of the life of the everyday church and you see you're involved in the prayer meetings and the Bible studies and the things that work to build up believers after baptism, you see that missions is not It's not just about proclaiming the gospel on the street corners and then walking away, but you see that it's also has a discipleship component as well.